Hello, everybody. We are here for another episode of Ask Justin Anything You Want. And we'll be doing this live on a few different platforms. So if you haven't been here before, this came via, I was getting so many DMs with so many different questions on all of our different platforms. We figured we'd centralize it. We do this every single Monday from 1 until 1:30. Do 5 questions, about 5 minutes each. Try to keep them fairly rapid fire and concise around a topic to add as much value as we can. Now, if you want to ask us any questions, just put it right in the actual DMs or go on Instagram, follow me at justin.conoco. I do answer those directly myself. I manage all my social media channels myself, and my amazing team is there to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. So I appreciate everything that all of you do to support us online, hence we're doing this in kind. So today we're going to actually be talking about success in real estate. So the question and the topics were called around the mistakes agents make when they are getting into the business. So there were some people that were getting their licenses that were asking us questions. Some other agents that are in the business, they're newer agents, maybe they're struggling a little bit and they were asking us a variety of questions. So we're going to dig into the 5 mistakes that new agents make when they get in the business. This should serve anybody that's getting their real estate license or anybody that currently has their real estate license and maybe is doing one of these things incorrectly, and I say that incorrectly in parentheses because there's no right or wrong way to do anything, but this is just what we've seen from onboarding an incredible team, being in the business and collaborating with agents all across North America. So if it's your first time here and you've never seen this mug before, my name's Justin. I own Prime Real Estate with my gorgeous wife, Shannon. She is the heart and the brains of the organization. She built the infrastructure, incredibly powerful woman, MBA educated. She would never tell you that. We've grown 100 to 300% year on year since we started. We now own Prime Real Estate and Prime Media Group, which actually creates a lot of the assets and does the production and agency work for Prime Real Estate. But now we're venturing out. We're doing quite a bit of work in production for other businesses, which is pretty cool. We're by referral only, but we're working with people that are trying to extrapolate their voice and succeed. And we're not here to manage their socials by any means. What we're here to do is teach them how to fish so we can all go out fishing together. We've done it in the real estate space, so we're going to share everything with you on this channel and on this platform. Now let's dig right into it so we don't waste any more time. So the top 5 mistakes agents make when they get into real estate. Number 1 is thinking it's easy. I think a lot of people are getting into the real estate industry right now because they see in the headlines how it is just booming everywhere. Now keep in mind, if real estate is booming and it's a seller's market, what does that actually mean from a day-to-day operation standpoint? Now let's go back a couple of years to a balanced market. And if you went to last week's episode, we talked about sellers markets and buyers markets and balanced markets. So you can click the link to go see that video. But let's go back to what a balanced market is, where there's equal buyers and equal sellers out there. Now, Justin Conoco is going out there and doing all kinds of deals. And let's say I work with 10 buyers and I do maybe 20 showings, 2 showings per buyer, write a contract, get an offer accepted with conditions, do the due diligence, close out that deal, and move on to the next one. Seems like a pretty good gig, right? That's a separate conversation. Now let's go to a seller's market where it is competitive. There's no supply, but there's a lot of buyers. So in this market, you're writing like 6 to 10 offers to get one accepted because you build a formula for success, which we've talked about on this series, and then you go out and you're sticking to your formula. So if it's super competitive and there's 15 offers per property, I may have to write 10 offers to get one deal accepted in order to protect my client, make sure they end up in the right product, they don't overpay, whatever. Now, every showing that I do for those properties, if I only show one property, is probably 3 hours per showing, or offer, I should say, right? So about an hour to book the showing, show the property, about an hour to do the due diligence, write the offer up, and then another hour to do the presentation and all the follow-up calls and everything it takes. So now I'm 30 hours in and I'm not getting 9 of those deals. So from that perspective, I think a lot of people just see it's a seller's market, things are selling, you put the sign up and it's gone. It's actually quite the opposite. A lot of agents are quitting the industry. We've gotten a lot of calls from agents from other brokerages that want to join Prime. Unfortunately, we're not really in that space. We're not a brokerage that just hires anybody that calls on us. We're very specific to what we do. So not necessarily our model, but it's a real thing that's happening. So I figured it was worth talking about so that people, when they look at the real estate industry, understand it takes work to actually make it happen. Now, if you do the work, phenomenal. They say about on average, if you can stick it out about 5 years, you're going to build a business and do enough sales where the sales that you did 5 years ago are going to translate into resales, referral business, and your phone will kind of just be ringing without as much marketing efforts as you may think. So there is a reward and light at the end of the tunnel, but the attrition in this industry is insane. I heard a stat once that it was something like 50% of people that do the first course never make it to the second, 50% of that course never make it past there, 50% of those never make it past the third, and then another 50% are gone within that first 5 years. So out of a class of 100, I'll let you do the math. So understand that it's not this be all end all for a career if you're not willing to do the work. And I always equate it to, I'm willing to take out the trash or flip hamburgers or do coffee shops, sell sneakers. I think these are all wicked jobs if that's what you're called to do, but you have to show up and you have to do the work. The second thing that people do is they over prepare to get into the industry. And this is such a common mistake that I see when people are looking to get into real estate. You know, they get their license, they pick a brokerage, which is another point of topic. But then they sit there and they get paralyzed by, my logo has to be just perfect. My photos have to be just perfect. I have to have, you know, a super high-end videographer do a whole profile on me and have everything ready so that I can announce to the world that I'm in real estate. Well, while you're doing that, there's somebody else out there that's actually just doing the job. And they're getting better and better and better a lot faster than you because they're out there in the field. They're getting around people that are doing business. They're getting in cultures and ecosystems where they're learning from people that are doing it on a much higher level from them. Maybe they're on Clubhouse, collaborating with some incredible people on there, listening to decades and decades and decades of experience talk about what it's like to work with buyers, what it's like to work with sellers and builders and investors, and, you know, best practices in those industries. Because even myself being involved in all aspects of real estate, I wake up every day, how can I serve my builders better, right? The market is hot. You know, a lot of agents, and Joy just said this on a Clubhouse this morning, a lot of agents spend their time with builders trying to prove their value to the builder as if the builder needs them, when that's not how it should be. Actually, it's bringing a relational aspect to the business, but that's something we'll go down another day. So I think being over prepared is a massive mistake that people make. Before they do that, they should go to what number 3 is going to be. And number 3, the third mistake that people make when they get in this business is tied into that second one that we just talked about. And that's being unprepared in the things that actually matter. And what I mean by that is market statistics, contract law, and the actual systems that it takes to bring a contract to completion. So people spend so much time making sure their Instagram bio is perfect and their TikTok dance is going to pop off because that's where all the attention is these days, but they're not actually experts. And when they get the call from a builder or a seller or a buyer and they're asking them, hey, what about this property? They don't have the answers because they're not prepared in the things that actually matter. So what I would say is, when you get into the business, if you happen to be in an area that you know is going to be your primary market, get super dialed in on the things that actually matter. Get super dialed in on the average home prices in that area. How many months of inventory is there? What have the trends been for the last 3 months? Extrapolate that to the last year. Extrapolate that to the last 5 years. What's happening from a building perspective? Call the city hall or go on their website. What do the zoning applications look like? Where is the city growing? Where are the builders investing, putting in new infrastructure? You know, and I would start reaching out to people in your market that are at the very top of their field and start asking them or starting to develop a relationship with them, and leading them with grace in the standpoint that you're not just calling them and saying, hey, I'm new and I'm a hotshot, I'm this and that. You can flat out tell them you're a brand new agent and you're just trying to build relationships and you respect them and you've seen their name around, and quite often the good ones will pour into you. Now, a warning, in this industry, there's a lot of scarcity mindset. There's a lot of people that will poo-poo what other people are doing, probably because they're insecure and they're just not willing to do that themselves, or they just think that if somebody else comes in, they're going to steal a piece of their pie. It's absolutely ridiculous. Even internally, if you look at an organization like Prime, you would think, I'm going to try and funnel everything to myself because I'm the guy that owns the thing with Shannon, and everything's got to flow through me so that I get a commission split on an extra percentage from all of my agents. Not the case at all. I want my agents to actually succeed. I'm teaching them the things that I'm doing because we all level up, and there's people that are going to work with the Bettys and the Victors and the Lindsays that aren't necessarily my exact client type, and I'm going to get people that are not my exact client type that I'm going to send to them, and that's where you build a collaborative community. The real estate industry can be the exact same thing, but you have to approach it the right way. Another practical tip I'll give you, take the database of agents and their contacts, put them in your CRM, call about 5 a day. It's a habit that I've been doing for a very long time, and it always leads to business. And it's something you can do for your clients that a lot of agents aren't going to actually do. So that when the market's not responding, you're still doing the work to get the deals done for your people. Now, the fourth mistake that people make when they get into the real estate industry, hold on a second. Matt LaMarche, I absolutely love you. I see you in the chat. What is the number one thing a U.S. citizen should know before moving to Canada permanently? Ooh, that is a big question. So first of all, I'd love everybody to go follow Matt. He's in the ATL market. He is amazing at what he does in the real estate world. Go follow him on Clubhouse and Instagram as well. Instagram, he posted some amazing Porsches. So if you're a fan of high-end cars, he's a guy you want to follow. But if you want to get better at real estate, go find him on Clubhouse. He's great there too. I would say, I mean, there's a lot we can go into there. I would say the number one thing is do your research on where you're moving to prior. A lot of times people will just go to the major metropolitan centers. They won't look at the secondary or the tertiary markets. I would say find out what type of lifestyle you want. And then I would reach out to people like myself or people in our network to get balanced perspectives. People in big markets, people in small markets, and you'll see consistencies of what life is like. Because life is very different in Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, London, Grand Bend, Port Stanley. And it depends on what type of lifestyle you want to create and where you're at from an investment risk perspective. So why I say that is sometimes people want to be in a major metropolitan area. They want to be in an ATL. Then I would send you to a Montreal or Toronto or Vancouver, depending on where you want to be in the country. But if you're early on in your journey, say you're a young family, dual income, no kids, and you want to get into like early development, you don't care about living through construction for 10 years because you want to make $500,000, I have other markets for you that may seem a little bit sleepy right now, but that is where the development's going. Going back to what I said early on about doing your research and understanding where that's coming from. I appreciate you. Hey, Hasna, nice to see you as well. So to get back on track, number 4, the fourth mistake that people make when they get into the business is they overthink their brokerage. Or they underthink it. Go both ways. Real estate industry is changing very, very quickly. And I own a brokerage with my wife. So it's to my detriment to say that people are overthinking or underthinking the brokerages, because I think people look at the brand or the label and think it matters. They're not hiring the brand or the label. They are hiring you. I've worked at franchises. I left franchises and I was one that fought my wife tooth and nail. It's like, I'm going to lose all this business, blah, blah, blah. My business actually increased because people were like, oh, you're a local business, you're locally owned, you employ people. It was a very different conversation. I think it was one person that actually ended up being somebody I probably shouldn't have been working with anyways because they didn't line up with my core values. So I can tell you that it's not necessarily the logo that matters. We are going very far away from a time where people are even looking at logos. They're looking at the human being. What matters is the leadership, the person that is in charge that you are going to be leaning on when you need that call at Saturday night at 11 o'clock or things are going sideways. Are they going to stick by your side? Talk to the people that actually work there. What is the culture like? Is it a scarcity mindset where people are stealing stuff off the fax machine and taking your clients? What does that look like, right? Because I think you're going into a time when there are digital brokerages where people want to go there and they never want to see an office, and that's totally fine. And then there's other brokerages where they have a culture, they have a bricks and mortar location that is kind of like the clubhouse for that brokerage, and the culture kind of emanates from there. It really depends on what style of person you are and what drives you. Personally, I like getting around people that drive me. I like getting around people that are hungry but collaborative. So if I'm in an environment with them and I see they did a whole bunch of sales, I'm not getting negative about that. I'm getting excited for them, genuinely excited for them, and then turning around and be like, man, what can I do to make it happen in my world? And then reaching out to them and they're sharing that information with me. So like I said, going back to the beginning of the question, people overthink the impact of a brokerage, but they also underthink it from the standpoint of what they're signing up for and how they're going to use that to leverage to increase their business, because ultimately that's what it's for. The other thing I'll say about brokerages is agents are hilarious because they'll sit down with a seller. The seller will grind them on commission, right? So I'll sit down with the seller, tell them what I do, what I charge, and the seller will be like, well, this guy will do it for 2% less. And my response to them is very simple. It's, well, if all you care about is saving commission, I'm probably not your guy. But if you want to make more money, that's a separate conversation. I make $0 to list your property. I only make money when it sells. Now, if you want to compare case studies of what I can do on the sales side and your net and you end up with more money, you'll pay me 20% if I make you more money than the other person, right? It's the same thing from the brokerage perspective. Agents on the other side, they'll just compare caps and splits and office fees. That's it. They won't look at, would I have made more money here versus here? They'll think that, well, I went to this brokerage and I did X amount of dollars and it was all me. They won't look at everything I explained about the people that are driving them to do more business, the connections that are happening unbeknownst to them. Going back to, again, the leadership component of it, and does that brokerage make you a more efficient person and allow you to do more business with less stress? I think that's the question, because your time savings is probably worth a lot more than saving 10 grand on a split, right? If I saved you, or sorry, if you spent $10,000 more at a brokerage, but you ended up having an absolute blast doing your business and you were probably 25 to 30% more productive, I would extrapolate that on the commissions agents make in transactions to being a lot more than $10,000. So you got to do an actual like net comparison of what you think you're going to be getting, or talk to case studies of people that are actually doing it in the space versus just the straight commission split comparison, because that doesn't work, I promise you. But like I said, it's kind of funny because agents expect it from sellers, but then they never look at themselves doing it when they're on the brokerage side of things. But one more thing on that topic, I talked about this with Ray Allen. The broker should be able to sit down with you at the end of the year and say, look at how much we did for you. They shouldn't say, hey, look how much commission you made. You should literally be breaking down your costs at those brokerages with the broker. And I do it every year with my team. And I look at, was I able to give you more than you gave me in value? Because truthfully, it goes two ways, right? It actually costs me money to have people on my team because I'm giving them business I could just close myself, but I'm using it to help them grow their business and establish a bigger presence and whatnot too. But at the same time, they're coming to us and paying us money to be there. So there has to be an interchangeable value exchange for it to make sense. Karina's comment, yes, 100% commission with a lot of stress is not a good deal. That is a reality. It's like keeping 100% of nothing. It's not necessarily the best as keeping 50% of 5 times that amount, right? Udelka, nice to see you. Hasna, nice to see you as well too. Hasna has a question, so we'll throw this in there as well. I have one. What is the status of travel in Canada? My client's daughter is due to go to school here. Depends on where you're talking. We're in the province of Ontario, so we are on a full stay-at-home order. We can't leave the province. Probably not going to get into discussion here today. Not really the place for it. I would say call somebody in the city where they're trying to travel to. I do know there's some essential travel happening between certain areas, and it might warrant it if they have to go to school, but I don't really know. So if I'm not qualified to answer a question, you will never hear me answer it. Last thing, number 5, the 5th mistake that new agents make when they are getting into the business. They just don't do the work. This is probably valid advice for people who've been in the business for 15 years and are hitting these lulls, not understanding why things aren't happening. They just don't do the work. They don't wake up in the morning. They don't plan what they're doing or look at their business. They don't put any structures in place to make sure that they're being held accountable. They don't pick up the phone and actually call people. They expect people to call them. I don't know why buyers aren't calling me. I don't know why sellers aren't calling me. What are you doing to get yourself in front of them? Are you putting out educational content? Are you calling your past clients? Past clients. People don't call their past clients. I try and touch base with all of my past clients at least on a quarterly basis, if not more often than that. If I'm driving by their house, I text them randomly, DM them on Instagram. These people are family. They trusted me with a transaction that I still don't feel like I necessarily deserve to be in that position, but I'm going to try and honor it. So I would tell you, if you're in the business for 10 or 15 years, or you're a brand new agent, your actual waking up and putting time in your schedule to do that is crucial, right? I think it's the most important thing that people just don't do in our business. The other thing is they don't show up consistently in the other things that matter in the business, like sitting down and working on their business every single day. Ryan Serhan taught me this. Working on your business minimum for an hour a day, going into the back end. What do your follow-up plans look like? What does your marketing system look like? What income and expenses tracking are you doing? What are you doing to build a business? I'm not a rocket scientist, right? I just do it consistently. I find business every day. I work on my business every day, and then I do the things that I promised people I would do. So I'm doing this consistently, right? Every Monday, 1 to 1:30, this is what I'm here doing because I've committed to it. And the consistency is what's really going to move the needle. But when I've done this, I have a pile of things to do for clients. They're already in my calendar. So I don't even have to think about it. It doesn't take me mental energy to turn around and start executing those tasks. I pick up my phone and I start going through them one after another because I'm prepared. But it is the mistake that people make because they're too worried about what am I going to post on social media. All these things that they think matter that truly don't in the beginning. rather than focusing on market stats. What am I doing today at 3:30? I'm looking at new home build prices in London and the Elgin Center. I'm actually doing a comparison because there's 2 townhouse projects I'm working on, and I want to be very dialed in on my pricing. That's in my calendar. So I do it for myself. And when I have a conversation with that client, I'm prepared. So my question to you in kind is, what could you be doing to prepare yourself for success? If you're new to the business or you are in the business, comment below. What could you do to refine your skill set? Is it something working on your business? Is it creating a structure around maybe batching content production and then distribution? Because that it does matter. But I think just people get it very twisted and they just focus on that in the beginning because they want the highlight reel. They want the Instagram photo in front of them. They want the likes. They want the clout, but they're not willing to do the work. So I'm going to wrap this up. I love that I have a list because it's going to keep me very, very concise. I promise I'll be here every Monday, 1 to 1:30, digging into 5 questions. If you ever want any questions answered, I will answer them live. I'll look at this list in a second. I may have one more, but this will live in perpetuity on our YouTube channel, on our LinkedIn channel, and on our Facebook page. I appreciate everybody in our world so much, which is why I do this. I like doing this way because I can see you a little bit and I can see you in the comments, and I love seeing you so much here. Oh, we got a bunch. Roy, I saw you in the chat this morning. Thanks for being here. Udelka, I hold a team meeting every 2 weeks. No excuses. That was one of the subjects. How are you using your time? Very important. Here's another example. Team meetings, right? Our team meetings aren't mandatory, Udelka, so we have a little bit of a different setup because we have agents that, they travel. They're kind of all over the place too. And, it's something, though, that I can tell you, I can directly attribute the people that show up in the morning huddles and the meetings consistently. I see where their numbers are at, and I see the production, and I see the cadence, and I see what the momentum does. Momentum actually builds incredible businesses. Hasna Pierce says most people fail because they're not looking at being real estate agents like an actual business, like a traditional job. Get up and go to work. Yeah, they want to be on TV. Most people get in the business because they just see what they see on TV, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Matt Kelly, absolutely love this video. I think you nailed it on your last point. Focus on working on your business, 1 hour a day, my people. I'm telling you, that makes all the difference in the world. If you need ideas on what to work on in your business, let me know. I will definitely help you. Delka, it's easy to open a business and very difficult to maintain the enthusiasm is day one. That's a topic that we could actually discuss on another episode for sure. I think, the momentum is a big part of it. And I don't always want to show up and do the work, but if I show up, the work will honor you every single time. Next Monday in a 3-piece suit. Yeah, if I'm in the office. And Eureka, shout out to Eureka and the whole crew that did the fundraiser yesterday. So we did a fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Club on Clubhouse and raised over $45,000 was the last count that I saw. She's an absolute dynamo. Is on the T team out of Silicon Valley, tracking to $1 billion worth of sales this year. So you guys are family. Thank you so much for being here. Smash that like button, and I'll keep these episodes coming. I appreciate everybody that's here so much, and hope you enjoyed the episode. I'll catch you on the flip side. I got work to do.